Okay, how you guys doing on that end?
We're great.
Okay.
The kids are ready and they understand this magnitude of this opportunity. We are representing the United States of America, Charlotte, North Carolina, Ridge Grove Middle School. And so they understand that they are a select elite group because they are my only students that are having this opportunity.
Excellent. Wonderful opportunity. Let me just say before we get started, students, can I call you guys you guys? Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay. And now, how old are you guys?
I'm 13. 17. 14.
Okay, good. I'm going to challenge your intellect at one segment of this because there's a concept about media that I want to share with you that has affected my career. And I will read from a text, and then if you don't understand it, we can kind of water down the terminology, but bear with me. I want you to be sharp. I want you to speak out because this is a broadcast program. This is my weekly broadcast called Japan Journal. So in about 30 seconds, I'm going to come at you live like we're on TV because we will be in effect. Okay? You ready for showtime?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's do this. Okay. Alan, if you have them roll the camera, please, and we can get started. Sherry, anything else before we get started?
No, sir. We're ready.
Okay. All right. Okay. You rolling, Alan?
It's rolling.
Okay, I'm rolling. Camera 2's rolling as well. Let's go in about 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good day, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Japan Journal, the Internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan. I'm your host, Mal Adams, coming to you live from the Media Arts Lab in beautiful Kakegawa City in Shizuoka Prefecture in the center of the Japanese archipelago of Honshu Island. Today, I'm pleased and proud to be the guest lecturer at the Ridge Road Middle School in Charlotte, North Carolina, USA, where we are conducting the first in a series of live interactive Skypecasts from Japan, produced by Totown Digital Media in association with the Charlotte-based Our Foundation for Children, or OFC. I'd like to give a shout out at this time to Mrs. Clair Lane and Alan Lane, co-founders of OFC. Mr. Lane is acting as our associate producer on location there at the school. Please give them a big round of applause for their hard work in coordinating these events. The Lane family. Thank you. And of course, this project could not have been accomplished without the leadership, the coordination, and the commitment to education of Ms. Sherry L. Moore, who is the teacher of today's Exploring Business Technology class. And my co-host on this week's program, we're going to be doing some team teaching here. Please give Ms. Moore a big round of applause. Okay, that's your teacher. All right. And last but not least, I'd like to introduce you, my viewers, to the students of Ms. Moore's class. Let's see if we can get a big Ridge Road Middle School good morning from all of you guys and girls out there to our viewers in Japan and around the World Wide Web. Good morning, class. How are you? You okay? All right. Are you ready for showtime?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody say yes.
Yes.
All right, let's do it. We're going to have fun. It's going to be interactive. I'm not going to lecture to you for the next 60 minutes. I'm going to ask for your opinions and your input on today's discussion. It is interesting that we are using this media, this cybercast technology, to talk about the media today, which is what my career over 42 years is based on. So, by the end of this session, I'm looking to get at least 5 broadcasters, a couple of animators, a few editors out of this, because we're going to talk about opportunities, professional opportunities in this cybercast industry. And I want to hear from you how you're making use of this digital electronic technology in your own lives. And so we're going to move through this a little bit. First of all, by way of introduction, personal introduction, let's, Mr. Lane, I'm going to now share my desktop for you, and you please confirm whether you'll be able to see the opening slate here, the opening title.
Looks good.
Okay. for you, my co-participants here at the school, the Ridge Road Middle School. There is always about a 10-second delay in this technology. It is not yet a perfect science, so we may have some technical problems, but please bear with us as we try to get through this session today. As you see on the big screen there, this is Japan Journal, the internet's #1 weekly English language online cybercast from Japan. It is not broadcast, it is not cablecast, but it is a cybercast, which means it's coming to you online over the internet and throughout the World Wide Web from Japan. We are happy to be at Ridge Road Middle School, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. It is the Exploring Business Technology class, teacher Ms. Sherry Moore and facilitator Mr. and Mrs. Alan Lane. Now, the topic of today is the media in a global village, and we'll decide what that means throughout the course of this session with the subtitle, Media Arts Careers in Cyberspace. So, as I give you my personal resume, and as I share with you my experiences, you'll learn that there are many tasks associated with being a broadcaster or a television news program producer. And we'll enumerate these various tasks, and I want you to always be aware and conscious of opportunities that may coincide with your sets of interests or skills or what have you that may afford you a future opportunity in this area, the broad area of the media, the international media or digital media or cybercast skills or what have you. This is a live, interactive Skypecast from Japan, produced by my firm, Totown Digital Media. So, looking at the first slide here, let's change the slide and see what we got here. Mr. Lane, please confirm. Okay, there we go. All right. Yep. Okay. Do you folks know who that man is? Okay, that is President George H.W. Bush, and that guy to his right, that's young Mal Adams, as a correspondent for the cable news network in Tokyo. Let me just, while you're looking at that, give you a brief overview of my resume and my career, starting with the fact that as of 35 years ago, actually 42 years ago, I began as a professional broadcast journalist in radio and television, TV and radio, producer-director, news bureau management, a program manager and producer-director, a newscaster, an anchorman, a videographer, and a film photojournalist. And to facilitate many of these tasks, you have to be a writer, which I was and still am, an editor, and now in my current role as president and executive producer of Totown Communications Company Limited here in Japan, I am a corporate communications company owner, an executive management skills person. I own and operate an independent record label called Totown Records, and I am executive producer for that organization, as well as a technical record producer. I operate, in Japanese, we call it a yofu izakaya, which is a country-style eatery, which is a drinking and eating establishment, a bar and restaurant called Mal's Bar. It is a family business. I operate with my wife, and from time to time, my children, who are teenagers. My son just turned 20. My daughter is a third-year high school student, and sometimes they assist us in that nighttime evening operation. So I have a skill as a bartender as well, in addition to a business consultant, artist manager, concert and event producer promoter, copyright manager and administrator, a small business entrepreneur, a cross-cultural communications trainer and consultant, English language instructor, trainer, and operator of Adams International Academy, which is my English and Japanese language school. I started in 1969 at the age of 19 at KETV Channel 7 News in Omaha, Nebraska. That is my hometown, and that is where I met Mr. Lane. He and I have been acquainted for over 40 years, early on as college students, and by virtue of this technology that we're using now, we have maintained our relationship and in constant contact internationally, worldwide, globally by Skype and other means. Later, in 1972, I went to New York City from Omaha, Nebraska, where I worked at WCBS Radio in New York. That was an internship as a radio reporter and broadcaster. At that time, I gathered news and conducted interviews on audio tape, because it is a radio broadcast, and composed narration scripts and announced the stories on air and on tape. Later, I returned back to Nebraska, my hometown, and while attending the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, I served as a senior producer correspondent for Nebraska ETV's Educational Television Network as a producer-director, and produced a weekly series on minority affairs. It was a monthly program where I produced documentaries on Native Americans, women, physically challenged people, and ethnic minorities in the Middle West region of the United States. At the same time, the job required me to be a lecturer in mass communications law for a graduate seminar. And subsequent to that, in 1976, I moved from the Midwest to Los Angeles, California, where I operated at KTTV News, Channel 11, which was then Metro Media. The Metro Media Corporation subsequently became Fox News, but at that time, in 1976, it was a privately owned organization, a network of about 7 stations throughout the United States, out of Los Angeles, Hollywood, California. I was a TV reporter and the City Hall and government reporter and a weekend anchor person at that entity. In 1978, I then joined CBS KNX News Radio 1070 in Los Angeles, where I conducted live radio broadcasts as an anchorman and reporter and news writer. And at that time, I had the opportunity to come to Japan for CBS Tokyo. I transferred to the CBS Tokyo Bureau as a radio reporter correspondent, a news broadcaster, and the CBS Morning News and the CBS Radio Worldwide broadcasts were my special programs for a 2-year period from 1981. Subsequent to that, in about 1984, the owner of the all-new cable news network, CNN, out of Atlanta, Georgia, 1 year after launching his broadcast out of Atlanta, established his first overseas bureau in Tokyo, Japan, and I was recruited from CBS to launch and head that operation back in 1984. The Tokyo office for the former owner Ted Turner as a producer, correspondent, and program manager and host of the award-winning 30-minute worldwide broadcast entitled This Week in Japan. So as I'm giving you this information, I'm giving you a lot of job skills and tasks here, so I want you to formulate some questions so we can get into more detail if you're interested in any aspect of this for your own particular professional careers. Subsequently, in 1986-87 to the present time, I established my organization called Totown Communications Company Limited, and it was a small business enterprise that had 2 or 3 entities at that time, beginning with Totown Records and Mal's Bar. Subsequently, I established that. But the name Totown, you may wonder where that came from. Well, I was interested in media and entertainment promotion, so Totown was named for Tokyo Town, or the Motown of Tokyo. So most foreigners understood what that meant by calling it Totown Communications, but my Japanese counterparts, when looking at it in the Romanized alphabet, pronounce it Totown, as though I was going to town, you know, but that's something that I often have to correct. We'll get into writing Japanese and the Japanese reading English with a different pronunciation later, because a little bit later on into this program, I want you to have pencil and paper ready and be prepared to learn how to introduce yourself in Japanese. We're going to give you a short course on that in the course of today's presentation. I attended the University of Nebraska at Omaha, and around those years, I met Mr. Lane, as I mentioned. Subsequently, I went to Creighton University, where I began specializing in courses because as a second-year undergraduate student, after the passing of my father for economic reasons, I had to go to work. But I was blessed to be able to get a job at the age of 19 as a local TV reporter on the local channel in Omaha, Nebraska, the ABC affiliate. And from there on, never looking back, I have yet to acquire a baccalaureate degree as an undergraduate, although I have secured a job as a professor of mass communications law because of equivalent amount of experience and training. So at this point, I cannot emphasize or overemphasize that education is a lifelong learning process. And you will find that in whatever job you have, it's always a learning situation that will always prepare you for your next position as you grow professionally, and also accompany your educational process along with those jobs that you may have. So much for that. Let me move on now to my current operation now, and I'm going to change this slide and try to just give you a bit of narrative over some of these photos. You see a picture there of myself and President George Bush. That was taken in Tokyo, Japan, as he visited, was on a diplomatic mission to Japan. As the correspondent for a major broadcaster, I was assigned to cover him, and this is a very rough, fuzzy photo taken from a video of me and President Jimmy Carter early on in my career. He was a guest on my CNN This Week in Japan program. So you can see that this kind of work as a broadcaster or a media person, particularly the field of journalism, aligns you and puts you in the company of some